All right, so there's one other thing I want to talk about this morning here. And that is our Picard Refit shard claim. This is in your NX-01 refinery. This is a refit for your NX-01. Takes 120 shards, depending on how you want to break this up and spend it. It will give you an additional token and additional par steel, titanium, and dilithium rewards. And there is a handy dandy little chart that does break all of this down. But seeing as this morning I pulled my 120th shard, I figured we would just look at it like right here, right now. So here's my NX-01 refit. This is going to boost my impulse speed, awesome, by 30%. By 30, not by 30%. So give me an extra 30 impulse speed on the NX-01. What is the impulse speed on my NX-01? It is currently 213, which for context, if you compare it to, say, Voyager's 249, the Protector's 252. This is without any impulse boosting crews, right? Talios is 242, so it being 213, it's a little slower. But when you add 30 to it, now it kind of gets right up here in the mix with some of these other ships. So let's go ahead and... That's a nice little boost there. Also, we're going to get an extra token so I can go into the aquatic space more times to do more loot if I want to do that. And then we're getting additional par steel, titanium, and dilithium. This is based on the tier of the ship and your ops level, I believe, kind of like the Monavine. When you get to tier 7 and you are at least ops 61, so you're in G6 space, it does give you an additional unlock of Sigma materials as well. This was designed to help combat players transitioning into G6 and having issues and struggles with these materials. From what I understand from players, that really isn't so much of the holdup anymore. The first few days, but it kind of balances itself out pretty quickly, especially with the rewards you get from events. What still seems to be the impetus for players in the 60s are the speed ups, right? Because of how expensive like a 1-day speed up goes from being 300 latinum to like 1.5 million latinum. And that still seems to be what holds people down up. Chris is going to agree with me too. She just recently went to 60. She's saying, yep, speed ups. But I mean, more resources is always a good thing. Can never really turn up your nose at that kind of stuff. So let's go unlock this. Did it just give it to me automatically, or do I have to actually like attach it? All right, so there's nothing in the refinery there, so maybe I actually have to use it. So let's go here. Let's go there. Let's apply our refit. Senko was saying I missed it. It was right next to the box. Thought that was the Picard refit reward claim. Okay, so now that I've unlocked it, I no longer claim the materials. Good. Take that out of the refinery so I don't accidentally claim more parts for a skin that I can't use. Now I come in here and I get this little handy box here. So based on my NX-01, I get a free daily claim that has, decent amounts of par steel and titanium, a little bit of dilithium, relatively speaking. These are billions. This is only 40 million. And then one extra token. But overall, that's not bad for a free claim. If you think about, like if we go here for a second, I can't see these because I already claimed them. But relatively speaking, some of these bundles, or even the Monavine bundles that we're talking about, of course I already claimed all mine today. The value is still, it's not as good as the It's better than the swarms. but not as good as the Monavine. I know that for a fact that my Monavine gives me, I want to say 700 billion for my par steel. I get 700 billion here. And for this particular one, I got 180. But then again, this is also a tier 11 Monavine versus a tier 6? 9. Oh, okay. This is further along than I thought it was. And there is a chart for all this on Discord, which we're going to go find here in just a second. Yeah. Let's go find that handy dandy little chart. Charts, chart index. Nope, that's not the one that I want. Where is the NX-01 refinery chart? Here we go. Those are the favors. So many charts, so little time. Those are the scraps. My goodness. Aha. I think this is it. Yes, this is the chart. We found it. Haha. Should have had this ready. I apologize. So, this is what you unlock your refit. This is where I am. I'm at tier 9. So my daily claim, as you can see right here, I'm getting 190 billion par steel, 35 billion titanium, and 40 million dilithium. That tracks with what we just got. As I continue to progress this up, these numbers do get a little bit better, but the bigger takeaway from this is what you get over here. So at tier 9, I'd be getting 2250 par steel, 910 titanium, and 360 dilithium. Doesn't seem like a lot. Those numbers do seem pretty low, but you have to remember you're basically starting over from scratch. It's almost like going back to a level 1 account at level 61 because of the conversion to these new materials. Now, for those of you in G6 already, I don't know what buildings and stuff cost. I mean, we can look and see what some buildings and stuff cost just for comparison's sake. Let's go look at operations. You know, what's 61? What's 62 cost? Op 62 would cost 1 million par steel is the base number, about 20,000 titanium and about 6,500 dilithium. Those are the base numbers. There aren't a lot of things that reduce those, although the new building we just got, the archives, does reduce these. So that is going to have an impact now on your Sigma upgrades, probably some research and stuff as well, but I'm sure the numbers are pretty small. So even just, you know, it'll help chip away at it a little bit. Probably not a game-changing thing for anything, but I mean, at least titanium to help repair ships might be a benefit, because I know that's another thing that people have talked about, holding them back, and the reason why a lot of people avoid the G6 uncommons, the level 63 ships, is just because the Sigma titanium repairs on them are pretty expensive, and that's why they just use their G5 epics so much instead. So there's also another refit for the Monavine that may also help with some of those numbers too. Probably a little more so, because I feel like this is a newer, this Mark II Monavine skin. Adding Sigma resources. Yeah, also applies burning, which is always a nice thing, but this seems to be more of an impactful one. but this one doesn't have sourcing yet. This is a buy only kind of thing, whereas the NX-01 refit here does have free-to-play sourcing in-game. We also have a second NX-01 refit here. Officer exchange containing rare and epic Voyager offer in the X-Borg store. All right. Doesn't really make any sense why that would be an NX-01 thing that boosts rare and epic Voyager officers out of the X-Borg faction store, but, you know, we'll just put that aside for a minute and not pay attention to that. So, Bud says that you get Sigma speed-ups from hitting level 62 aquatics. Okay. So that's pretty solid. So once you start getting up here and you start going, what's a level 62 system? Let's go, actually, well, we can't see in there to know. So you're saying in the loot chests you drop from killing like in Torgoth or Yotan here, you can start to get some Sigma speed-ups. That's a nice little thing to know. Could obviously help with some of these mechanics a little bit. They're 5-minute speed-ups. I mean, it's a start, right? Any little thing helps, but... Senko wants to know if the maxing the Monavine and our 61 plus, do you need the refit for the archive to give Sigma stuff, or is it a workaround? I'm going to guess you have to have the refit for that, but Moose is kind of saying yes as well. So it's nice to know we're on the same page. But if we go into the archives and you look at like the Monavine chest reward here, like my reward chest here doesn't show any Sigma materials in it at 59. Now, if I get to 61, would it change? Probably not, would be my guess. Because all it's really doing is collapsing the stuff you already have access to in your refinery. So if you don't have the refits, it's not going to give you a loophole workaround and be like, oh yeah, you start getting that stuff for free. It's like, no, you didn't unlock the original content, therefore you don't get the condensed version of it either. Come on, it's Scopely. They're not just gonna give that kind of stuff away. You want it, you got to get that skin. Kaviji, first time being here, also says that the Mirror Universe traders also give Sigma speed-ups. I have heard that as well. Darth is saying the level 68 traders in MU space. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, that's a little harder to get to and you know, and kill consistently. You're talking about this stuff out here in Terex and Romulus. Probably a pretty big upgrade. Not a lot of people going to fit into that, but I mean, let's go look, right? I'm curious. If we buy comparison, just for comparison's sake, what's in Charon, right? Mirror Charon, the survey ships there have, let's pull this over. This is the level 60 system. Those are 6.5 billion strength. That's a lot. And if we go look at Terex, which is the level 68 system, requires warp 800 to get to. Well, those have about 41 billion strength, so 7 times as strong. Now, again, some of it could be hull-based and whatnot, but... And what's the last system? Romulus? Oh, okay. And if you go big and go to Mirror Romulus, which is also another Warp 800 system, well, now you're doubling them. So now you're up to 85, almost 86 billion power in these particular systems. They're going to put hull breach on you. They're going to get extra weapon damage boosts. They're going to get isolytic damage boosts. Kind of par for the course. Obviously, you're getting broken 6-star parts, and you're getting a lot of reputation. So it's good for rep grinding for G6 players. If the base value is 1 million, and you start adding on all of your other research and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be a bit challenging. People are saying it'll be easier now if you can max out Hammer. That might also help too. And now that he has been added to transporter patterns. So just to give you a glimpse of some ways to get some future resource acquisition. For any of you who are in the mid 50s and thinking about what's that transition going to look like when I get to the 60s, here's at least some things you can start working on now that might make that transition a little easier for you. So